All right, Laura, I've been looking forward to speaking with you. Thank you for being here with me today.
I've been looking forward to this so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I always like the kind of the offline conversations we had before we start. And you were talking about Dr. Bridget and kind of about how someone changes their idea about something once they have like a patient experience or something else happens with that. And I love that because I was saying that a lot of people's experiences are based off of no experience. Their opinion is formed off of literally no experience. And that is often the case with plant medicine, I feel like.
Yes, 100%. Things have really changed in the last, decade plus in this space and how people think about it. I mean, growing up, I'm 32 years old. It was like the Dare era. We would like act out skits, and I thought people were gonna like be trying to like push joints on me
Yeah.
behind the the football field. And you grow up and you learn that doesn't happen, and that like cannabis is a lot different than we ever thought. And it's one of my favorite things ever as a cannabis business owner is to go through that with someone and change their opinion and perspective on it. Yeah, it's that light bulb moment that you like can't shut the Pandora's box to. Like once you're like you learn the secret of that these plants are here to help us and that they're not what the prohibitionists have always put in everyone's head for the last 100 years. It's pretty
You're gonna have
amazing.
the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, like Reefer Madness, like
Reefer
actually
Madness.
like seeing what was in that movie, and it's just like it's funny, but then at the same time you're like, oh my god, this is absolutely disgusting
Yeah.
that they were putting this in people's minds and making all these racist, tropes and just doing all the things that they were doing back then just to figure out how to keep the alcohol bureau going after the end
Yeah.
of alcohol prohibition. It's absolutely insane.
So tell me a little bit about any experiences you've had with people who have been very resistant to exposure to cannabis and how their mind has been changed.
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing this business for about 7 years. So I've had lots of those moments, but I can think of one recently that I really loved. I did a council of aging, like open table discussion, and we had all these people. I think there were like maybe like 30 people there total. And the conversation ended up going for almost 4 hours. It was me plus two dispensary owners. And my favorite person in the room had thought the event was about a different topic.
Hmm.
I don't know what topic she thought it was, but she came in and was like, cannabis, I hate this, but my
Oh.
kids like it. So I guess I'll sit and listen. And by the end, she was raising her hand. She's like, can I bring my entire family to the dispensary to buy cannabis from you guys? There's a dispensary that carries us. And I was like, absolutely, they'll help you out. And she's like, I'm going to bring 12 people in. We're all going to buy cannabis together and get a whole tour. So she started
Wow.
out, feeling like cannabis was awful and was something like a drug that people are abusing, sort of like alcohol. And by the end, she's like,
Mhm.
I need this in my life. This is clearly going to help me live a more fulfilling life. Or I think she was dealing with chronic pain. She's like,
Yeah.
this could help me with my pain and anxiety and sleep. And I'm like, yeah, it's not all about getting high. So that was probably my favorite event. Another woman there had such horrible, crippling anxiety. She hasn't been able to work. So we were able to get her started on like a tincture routine, and she said it really, really changed things for her. Allowed her to like go out in the house and do basic activities that she wasn't able to do. And it was just all from that one event, from sitting down with
Yeah.
people who are curious and blowing their minds. It's the best.
So what was her exposure was just seeing people be high, or what was it her
Oh, you
resist?
mean like at the event?
Yeah, like when her resistance. She said her kids are into it
Oh,
or whatever, but
yeah.
like
She had thought it was just something that people were doing to get high, to get messed up,
yeah,
to like disassociate, and then realizing like, oh, it's something that can actually like help me tune in, help me sleep, help me feel better.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just like those preconceived ideas. And I can go back to like my parents both had that when I wanted to be a cannabis entrepreneur. They both were like, I don't know about this.
yeah.
My dad was very naysayer. Will these products even work? Can you make money off of it? And just
Mm.
having those stigmas, and being like, yes, I use cannabis too. And now they're like the biggest, yeah, I know, like having that conversation. It was like, remember how I smelled like weed all the time in college? It was because I was smoking. There is a reason. And I've been a patient for 10 years now. So that's always helpful too, to be like, I'm using it medicinally,
Yeah,
which I am. But yeah, it's really come around. And yeah, I love this plan. I love
yeah.
teaching people about it and really changing their minds on it.
It's pretty amazing, right? And again, I think just a lot of the resistance is either no experience or maybe a one-time really bad experience.
Mm,
And then, people shut themselves off to the possibility of things when they have a negative experience or they just don't have any. And you see
yeah,
this in all industries. It's not just cannabis. It's like a lot of different things. You could take that behavior and transplant it into almost anything
so
for
true.
that. But once you actually sit down with somebody and talk to them about it and like, hey, I'm a functioning member of society, doing pretty well. I participate in this. Do you think I'm a loser? I mean, it's like,
Yes, exactly. I spoke at the Freedom Rally like 5 years ago on the main stage, and I was just like, I smoke cannabis, and I'm a good person. It's like if you smoke cannabis, you're a good person too. I don't know. In the Freedom Rally, you just feel like you have to like go up on a soapbox because
yeah.
it's like been around for 30+ years. So I would just go over there with a mic and rant. And yeah, I just went off about how you can smoke weed all day and be really productive. So it's
It
true, and don't feel guilty
is
about it.
true. I have so many
Yeah,
friends that partake in cannabis, smoking edibles, and they're like very successful people. They're doing really well in life. They're not the quote unquote stoners, and they're just laying
hmm,
around not being productive. I think that the marketing was really effective
yeah.
for that in the past. So, can you tell me a little bit about what's the marketing now
Yeah,
for the
that's a great question. Because, like you said, like past stoner culture has always been that lazy, like eating Cheetos on the
yeah,
couch, like Cheech and Chong type of humor. But now you see, I mean, dispensaries spending millions of dollars for these beautiful displays, brands that
yeah,
look just like a cosmetic brand or like a high end organic food you'd find on a shelf. So I would say the market, because of legalization, has like allowed just classic marketers and people that were in other spaces to come in and make beautiful brands that are more appealing to people's wellness, how to like certain targeted effects more like, oh sure, there's products that are targeted to get you high, but then
yeah,
there's also sleep products, energy products now with different cannabinoids. So with that, obviously, because of where genetics are coming along too, we used to only really have THC rich products. And then CBD came along, but now there's CBG, THCV, CBN, CBC, which are all different, unique phytocannabinoids that are found in the plant that are now bred for. So now there's so much different marketing around those type of effects and ratios between THC, CBG, all those different cannabinoids, which can be overwhelming for people that don't understand it, but it doesn't take too much to just look into like the basic effects. Like CBG can be good for gut health and mood, where like THCV can be really good for energy and actually like weight loss. It can help control appetite, which is the opposite of what everyone thinks of
yeah.
munchies doing, right? Everyone's like, you can eat a bunch of food on the couch, which can happen.
I mean,
Um,
it definitely happens to me every Friday and will happen today. So,
and so I know Friday's your day to eat an edible. I
my
remember. I
day.
love that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Just
great.
once a week. I'm not a like consistent user, like an everyday user. I just
Mhm.
like once a week. I enjoy edibles and line up all the snacks. I think most people know this about me. Now I talk about it so much.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun. I'm just in my house watching movies and stuff, and like it's so fun. I'm like, what are we having for dinner today? I need to know. Like,
And it tastes so good.
and it tastes so actually one of my clients so funny. They were like, "Darian, food tastes 10 times better this way." I was like, "I know." It's
I
like,
remember the first time I got high and ate popcorn, I was like, I taste the corn. I was
yeah,
like, why does this taste like an ear of corn right now? I was like, this is incredible. This is
I
next
need
level
more of
experience.
this.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm into this. This is cool. Oh man.
Yeah, it's not often
Um,
you eat like 2 or 3 entrees in a day. I mean, it's
yeah,
like
yeah, it's too funny. And like I think once you become obviously a regular cannabis user, if
yeah.
like you were using every day, those munchies go away.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah, but
sure.
it's like that once a week, just like self care. I'm eating edible,
Yeah,
I'm unwinding, and helps you just like
yeah.
reset. I love that so much.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, it's because listen, there's a whole spectrum of usage, and I think it's beautiful that there's all types of people using it for different things.
Hmm.
For that, I want to get to. I've talked to a lot of people in the business, and as someone who's a business owner in this, I would love to talk about the business owner culture for
Mm.
cannabis because I don't think I've talked about on that a lot in my podcast. So tell me a little bit about your entry into the business and kind of the culture of cannabis business.
Yeah. So I first started this business in 2016, but I had been a medical patient since 2013. So I had seen a lot of like underground events, and I had gone out to California and Colorado and seen a lot of like, the legacy market,
Mhm.
and like what they had created up to that point of, pre legalization or the medical program. And like that culture is much different than like the current giant MSO, which is like a multi-state operator,
Mm.
dispensary, big, huge, multi-million dollar brands that are like in Massachusetts now. So there's like a huge split. I'd say, right? You're having like a small business owner. That culture is very like about the plant, about like organic, about the people, and not as, I mean, the profits are important, but then you get on like the bigger operator side of things, and they're all about the profits. They feel more like a Target type of feel, or like just a traditional shopping experience. Where if you're going for like the small mom and pop type of business owner places, but in the cannabis space, the problem is 280E, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. It's a tax
Mm-mm.
code that makes it so cannabis businesses, not hemp businesses like ours, but cannabis businesses can't do any tax write offs. So everyone right now is like not making much money in the cannabis space.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I've heard of like it's been pawned now as like the cannabis Ponzi scheme for investors, because they're trying to take on a ton of money and the profits just really aren't there. Their overhead's so huge, and then you have no tax write offs. So in the Massachusetts space anyway, there's a lot of panic and franticness in business owners who are anxious, I would say. But like in like the hemp space, like me, I know personally, like my style is just, entrepreneurs in general are just work really hard, feel like you
Yeah.
never are working hard enough, and then just work harder. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
there is some balance and play, to play and work, but in a space like ours where things are changing so quickly, so competitive, it's like a very hard culture, and yeah, that's kind of what it is, I'd
That's
say.
interesting. The tax write-off thing is interesting. I mean, what was I mean, I don't know,
Mhm.
what was the reason behind having this?
I can tell
Not
you that is because the federal government says this plant's illegal, your operation's illegal, you have no federal tax write-offs.
hmm. So, I mean, well, maybe you don't know this, maybe you do, I'm not deeply into it on that level, but what's the future of federal legalization and how that
There are
may
so
affect.
Yeah, there's a big bill right now for banking, because banking is a huge issue. Like
Right.
in Massachusetts, we have two banks total in the whole state that will accept even a hemp account. And we, for example, were at Century Bank, which was like, sure, we've got you guys. They sold out to another bank. That bank got all the accounts and said, we don't want these. Passed it on to another bank,
Mhm.
which is a nightmare for bookkeeping and
Yeah.
all the things. It's such a pain. And then cannabis businesses have a huge monthly fee. I want to say it's between like $1,000 to $5,000, depending on your size, that you have to pay just to have a bank account.
That's
And
insane.
like you can't just get a traditional payment processor. Hemp or cannabis. Hemp's a little bit more lenient. Like we're in the Square program, but they take 4.5%. So, so it's
Man.
like you just like you're getting ticked at everything. Like general liability insurance is more. It's just like a tough space to operate in. It's just like you can't do social media ads. You can't.
Yeah.
You're constantly getting shadow banned. It's just like I just sometimes wish, I'm like, wonder what it would be like to run a normal business. I'm like, I just fantasize and then I get back to it. I'm like, what would it be like to run just Facebook ads and just have like
Yeah.
an Instagram shop and do all these cool things? But you just persist and you just get creative with it.
So, tell me the differences. You said you had been out to some other legacy places. What are the
Mm-hmm.
difference in the operations that you see? Like, I've lived in mainly just weed legal states.
Mm-hmm.
And, I honestly, at this point in my life, I refuse to live somewhere that doesn't have weed recreationally. I don't know.
Oh
It's just
yeah,
a thing for me. I don't
yeah,
wanna be sneaking around. It seems dumb to me to have to do
yeah.
that.
I feel
But
that.
I've seen, like, where I lived in Nevada versus Washington State, now I live in Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
all weed, recreational, legal. The operations on the outside, the consumer seem very different to me. Maybe you can
Mm-hmm.
explain why that is and how it is
Yeah.
in Massachusetts.
Yeah, for sure. I'll say like I haven't been out to California for a while, but I have been to California several times, pre legalization over there too. And that market is just focus on growing like the small batch growers are focused on growing like that real fire bud that just like super iced out.
Mm.
They have all the knowledge of decades of growing. The branding is so different. You know, it's like Cali branding, Cali vibes,
Yeah.
so different than the East Coast. More about like the artists. They do a lot of cool artist collaborations on their packaging. I'd say in those more mature markets, they're really about like, how is this grown? You know, what kind of soil was living soil? What kind of nutrients was this hydro? So like all those things that like a more informed consumer are asking. And then like the Nevada market, you got a lot of tourists, you know, like
Yeah.
especially like near Vegas, which I've been to several times. I mean, the prices are crazy. You know, they're
Prices
trying
are
to,
insane in Vegas for
yeah,
weed.
it's wild.
Ridiculous.
It's
Yeah.
wild. It's wild. If you have your medical card, they do have reciprocity. So that's helpful out in Nevada when you anyone visiting. But yeah, that market is all about kind of like I haven't been out for a while, but just I guess about big joints and big blunts that are rolled up for people balling out. You know what I mean? Like just people that just want to ball out. They do a lot of like
Yeah.
products like that in that market. And then Colorado, I actually went when they first legalized for the High Times Cup 10 years ago, which was like I was in college and that was my first like this is an industry and these are my people
These are my
and I want to
people.
be
Yeah.
here. Yeah, I took
Yeah.
like 10 dabs within like 20 minutes. I was like, I can do this. Like,
I
I think I can just smoke a ton of weed.
Yeah.
And all my friends were like, I want to go home. And I was like, no, Snoop Dogg's performing at 420. And they're
Yeah.
like, no, no, we got too high. And I was like, I feel like maybe my body just really likes this plant too.
Yeah.
So it was just
Yeah.
kind of like that like inspirational moment. I vibed with everyone. I was running around asking all of the, you know, the vendors, like, how'd you get started? What'd you do with this
Right.
business? And just trying to like prepare myself for one day being a cannabis entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, Washington State to me and living in all these places is my favorite place to, like, purchase cannabis
Oh, that's good to
because it
know.
feels very, okay, let me put it this way, like, in Vegas, it's like you're going into a vampire lounge in every dispensary. It's like it's all this, like, checking in, and everything
Yeah.
looks, like, super high end.
Mm-hmm.
California is more kind of artistic based. I like that, whole
Yeah, I
thing.
do too.
I mean, Colorado so far, it's kind of iffy, honestly, for me. The dispensaries, they're just okay.
Yeah.
But Washington dispensaries are so laid back. It's like they figured it out. Like, let's not
Yeah.
make this too like ritzy, and it's
Yeah.
almost
I love that.
like they care, but they kind of don't care. So it's like you just go into it's like a gas station basically, and they're
Yeah.
just like, hey, here you go. What do you want? And
Easy.
very easy. It's like in and out real quick. And I just
Yep.
wonder what makes those up why is there a difference in that? Is it there some permitting or is it a state I don't know, but I just know it's
Yeah.
very different in places I go.
I will say that I think it depends on like what is your licensing fee, what's your like,
Yeah.
you know, what's your startup cost on it. Like in Massachusetts, they say you need at least $1 million to get going. And
I
I know
see.
like I've been to Portland, Oregon several times, same type of vibe as Washington.
Yeah.
Like everyone's so laid back and chill, but they're not
Mm.
pushy. Like, what do you need? Like, let me
Yeah.
know. Everything's out to look at. And then Massachusetts here, I will say it's like really hard to find like very high quality products. A lot of them are old. Like you'll get like
Oh,
flour and it's
really?
like 8 months old and you're like, this was tested 8 months ago. Like, great.
Wow. Why is
Awesome.
that though? But why would that be?
I think like they gave a lot of licenses for growing and people just like overproduced and the big
Mm.
MSOs just kept making their grows larger and larger. Um, and they just had too much flour and the flour that's like mediocre just hangs around. So that's
Oh, really? I didn't know that. They
yeah.
don't get
And I
rid of
think
it? Like, I mean,
yeah, I mean, I guess you can like once you're processing it, but like, yeah, I don't know what the inventory problem is, but I know it's a huge issue with like drinks too. They have like they're ordering too many drinks and then they're taking up huge space in their vaults. So Massachusetts is like really really trying to figure it out right now. And I will
yeah.
say my favorite state to get cannabis, hands down, is Maine. Maine has the
Really?
best weed in the whole
Tell me why.
country.
I want to know why.
Well, they have similar to California. They started their medical program in I want to say 2000. Cali was
Okay.
like 98. So they've had those legacy growers. They're really connected up there. They share clones, they share techniques. And then when they legalized the medical program, they allowed caregivers to open up shops. Super
Mm.
low entry costs. There's parts of Maine you'll drive, you'll see like 10 dispensaries in like a
Yeah.
strip. It's kind of overdone because it was so
That's
easy to get
amazing.
in. Yeah.
That's
And so they
amazing.
make it super easy. And then caregivers who used to be able to grow at home, you could grow 99 plants. It's just like, you can imagine that's like a pretty
What?
big operation. Yeah, 99 plants, and that's in flower. And so like there was this like time where just like homes were filled with cannabis, and they were
Wow.
like paying the state for it, which they've shut down a little bit because I think they realized like, oh man, like the homes are filling with mold.
Yeah,
There's illegal activity that comes. There's a lot of things. There was a couple
sure.
of hash labs that blew up back when people used butane to process hash.
Ooh.
Yeah, so like you give too much leeway, not enough regulation, things happen. But from that, like letting everyone have a shot at it, you get the best out of it. Everyone learns. Those years of growing just make
Yeah.
for great product and great prices. They have much better prices than mass. So a lot of
That's
people throw them up.
Washington. Washington
Yeah,
feels just like that. I mean, I lived in a town of 5,000 people, and we had 4 dispensaries. That's a lot. And then if you go up and down the highway on I-5, nothing but cannabis dispensaries left and right. In
wow.
Colorado, it's nothing like that. You have to actually work hard to find dispensary, which I think is interesting because Colorado's part of the OG crew. I mean, they've been around a
The
long
OG.
time. Yeah, so
They're
it's
the
like,
first.
why
Yeah.
are you like this? Like, you should have like a plethora of this. And then I just feel
You
Washington,
must.
they nailed it, man. They nailed it big time.
That's interesting. I feel like maybe they had let too many people get in the space and then the
Mm,
bubble pops and it's not sustainable. That might have been it. Because I've been out to Colorado, I remember like many years ago, pre pandemic, and there were shops everywhere. But you could
yeah.
look around and go, this isn't sustainable either. You know, and I know Oklahoma, they opened up their licensing for medical and they put no limits. So
Oh,
it was like thousands of people got licensed right away. It was just like, go for it. See who
hey,
does it. So which I haven't checked in on their current status of that, but I know it was the only state that really had super opening licensing. So it's each state is its own little test study. You know, it's
okay.
unlike any other industry like that. You know, they all have their own regulations and they're all doing it differently and seeing what happens.
No. Yeah, I mean, I have so many questions. Before I jump to my next one, I don't understand the whole cannabis drinks, like with the THC in it. Like,
Yeah.
I've never done it, but, like, if you know, they selling, like, a drink that has 100 milligrams in it, I'm like, "How is this safe?" Like, it's just like
Yes, I remember going to Colorado and I got a drink and had like a shot glass on it, and it was like
Yeah,
super strong. And I was like, people could just drink like 100 milligrams really
literally.
quickly, and it hits you fast. A lot of people are doing nanotechnology that makes it water soluble and hit your system much quicker. And in
Yeah,
that same vein, it leaves quicker. So I think there's a push to that, like low milligrams. Like
okay.
Massachusetts, you can't have more than 5 per like can. So
Oh,
you're
okay, that's
super
good,
limited.
actually. That's
Yeah.
good. I don't want 100 in a can, honestly, I'll just be asleep for 2 days, and I'll just
Yeah, I
be
know.
baked forever. I mean, I don't
And
want
then
that. I mean
groggy. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I think it's interesting. I was talking to a woman that works for a scientific lab company, and she was saying that a bunch of the cans that the cannabis companies were using at first were absorbing the cannabinoids out of the drink. It was leaching it
Oh,
out. So there was
shit.
actually like no cannabinoids left in the actual drink that people were drinking. And it was
What?
all because their manufacturer switched the like inside lining of the can. So there's like certain things like that that the space is figuring out. I'll say Massachusetts. We have this like New England Cannabis Convention every year, and this
Mhm.
last year was the year of drinks. There were like 25 different vendors selling cannabis drinks, and I'm like, how is this
Know about that.
sustainable?
Yeah.
There's one cannabis company here in Massachusetts. They were first to market, and they sold for $100 million. They were just a drink company.
Wow.
So everyone saw
Mm.
that and was like, drinks? That's mostly water? That's super
Yeah.
easy to make. But I don't know. I hear it takes up a lot of vault space. It doesn't move how a lot of the dispensaries are thinking because I don't think people want to drink like a whole like 12-ounce can of some like a seltzer or like a soda that has a weird taste to it because it has
Yeah.
cannabis. You just want to like eat something, I think more, but maybe I'm wrong, but I'm with you on
N
that.
I haven't
I'm not
seen it.
buying them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not when I go to dispensaries, it feels like the inventory is just full constantly of drinks. Like, I don't see people buying drinks. I don't know,
Hmm.
maybe that was a, exceptional situation that you just said, but I
Yeah.
just don't see the drink market as like I think people are going to get flour, edibles, and stuff. I just don't see the drinks. At just first, I just don't think it's a great idea, honestly. That's just me.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Unless it was like a maybe like an energy shot that I could drink in
Yeah.
one drink, but like I just am not. It's not an enjoyable drink for me, so I'm not gonna like sit there and enjoy it.
No.
And like I said, the nano technology and stuff makes it hit you faster and leave your system
Mhm.
faster. So they're seeing it as like a great option for like consumption lounges where maybe they're not going
Yeah.
to actually allow for smoking, which is kind of silly,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the
That is
first
silly.
phase. Yeah,
Like,
Massachusetts is thinking that like you can have consumption, but you can't actually like combustion smoke. You can like
okay.
put get a THC massage while you drink seltzer. It's like I don't know
Wow.
if the money's there on that business model, but maybe I'm wrong.
Now, do you keep up with kind of the legalization trends, kind of a weed watch, if you will, across the country?
So I try to keep my ear on it the best I can. I do see like I said, the Banking Act federally that they're pushing really hard for, and then I think what would happen next is either a rescheduling to Class C
Uh-huh.
for cannabis. I think that's what the bone that might be thrown first. I know a
Okay.
lot of people are pushing for decriminalization federally, which would
Yeah.
be so helpful. Um,
So how would it mainly free up the banking situation, kind of a Class C or decriminalization? Would that be like the big outcome that you're looking for?
yeah, taxes like that 280E. Let's
Yeah,
get it
okay.
removed. Let's have tax write offs. And then it's the question of what about interstate commerce? So a lot of people
Yeah,
are preparing themselves for that. Like, can Maine hash be sold in Florida one day? You know what I mean? Like that type
yeah.
of thing. And then that questions the point of like USPS isn't going to be delivering that, right? FedEx won't be
Right,
delivering that.
yeah.
And then so there's going to be a whole logistics system just for moving cannabis across the country, just like there is liquor.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. I
yeah.
wish I could do that because I don't like just having to get stuff just from the state I'm in
Yeah.
all the
That's a,
time. I like variety. Like, I tell you, for instance, like, I'm a big Willie Nelson joint fan. Like,
those are
strawberry
great, aren't
cough
they?
is unbelievable. I
I've had
can't get
them.
it. I can't get
Uh,
it. Like, I go to his site, it's like, "Oh, well, here's where you could get it at the state, a certain state you're in." I'm like, "Why can't I just order this?" Like,
I
I just
know. And you will be able to one day, like that will happen. I actually spoke to a former CCC commissioner here in Massachusetts, and
Mhm.
he said there's a huge discussion federally about the constitutionality of not allowing states that touch to share products.
Mm.
Like, why can't New York
Oh,
and Massachusetts, who share a border, transport over that? Like, what constitutionally is saying states can't allow that?
yeah,
So that's something that could happen also, right? Like all the states that are like touching could have like some kind of like cannabis train or like the like a
yeah.
supply route that goes down and drops it off to all the
Cannabis
different
strain.
states.
That's
Yeah, like not a
amazing.
physical train, but like the idea of it that it could just go from like Maine all the way down to like Colorado or something. If it could go across and just do like a little trip, if there were enough states that legalized along the way.
Honestly, it's a
Um,
great no, the physical train idea is actually a great idea.
yeah, right. We
Like,
should
they
do
should
that.
just have, like, a cannabis train and, like,
Yeah,
make it safe where you can just get on this train, and you can go
I,
across America and just have weed. Like,
I
I
love
mean,
that. You can
what
stop
a
at all the
great
different
little idea.
grows.
Yes! It's
That'd
almost
be the
like a
dream.
moving retreat, and it's like you just like, how great you just dispensary tours
Yep.
and consumption along the way.
Yep.
Food is a big element to it and everything. I'm telling you, I would do it a heartbeat. Heart
I
for
think
sure. Great
I think
vacation.
that's a great idea, and you'd have like an awesome filtration system, so the air just stays
Yes,
perfectly clean. You smoke, and it would
yes,
just suck right up. It'd be
right.
perfect.
I'm telling you, you got kind of the hotel on wheels thing, you kind of make it a whole each little car of the train has a different, artistic feel to it, it's,
I know. I love that. I tried all different states cannabis, like see how
yeah,
they do
it's
it differently. Talk to the growers. I love that. It's a
oh,
fine experience.
yes, just each car talk to this grower, I mean, I would be, like, literally losing my mind. Like,
Like sign me up. That sounds
I
amazing.
know, I bet you would be so popular,
Oh my
it's
god, that'd
just
be
the
great.
cannabis train idea is amazing. It's like
Yes, I love that.
oh my goodness. So do you see like a future like how long do you think I know this is hard to think about, but like federal legalization, what's the best estimate for a timeline? Or is it just really just based off an administration who's in there politically?
Yeah, I think I feel like 5 years feels right, just saying it.
Mhm.
And I think when it comes to, like, political parties, I think both of them are kind of coming around to it at this point
Yeah.
because cannabis is used by all political parties. I mean, you do see that, so I think once you get, Republicans on the side of, like, this makes money,
Yeah.
like, this is good this is good for the
Right.
economy, get it out of, children's hands. I went
Yeah.
in front of, like, a city council, meeting here in Newburyport because they actually any town in Massachusetts can opt out of having cannabis in their town.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I went in to try to like say, hey, we should have cannabis here in our city. And I was like, I was not that long ago in high school. And there are entire operations and entrepreneurs of children selling cannabis. And when you don't have operations in town, it creates those, people that come in and see those opportunities and create little entrepreneurs in your high school. So like,
Yeah.
if you can make them realize it's a safer route to legalize it and control it and test it, I think we'd get there. So I see like 5 years. Like I said, those other options might happen before it blankets over as
Yeah.
just it's legal. And I do think it'll be left to the states, obviously, to determine
Yeah,
it still.
for sure.
And I'm sure there will be states that opt out, like
Yeah,
Dakota's. I could see them being like,
Dakotas, it ain't I think wasn't like and, they have these ballot measures. I love when they have the ballot measures because the people then bring these forward,
yeah,
and, I think one of those states, it didn't pass recently, maybe one of the Dakotas. I was like, "Oh, that's disappointing."
mhm,
But, like, a state like
yeah,
Montana, which I love, they have it,
I
which
love
was
Montana.
shocking. I love
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, Montana went full weed. That's what I'm talking about, baby." It's
yeah,
like
but then if you hang out with people in Montana, you'd be like, I could see why I would pass here. I've like
yeah,
in college, I visited my former high
yeah,
school roommate who's from Montana, and her friends were like way more ahead in partying than my
yeah,
Massachusetts friends. I was like, oh, you guys,
interesting.
yeah. So that didn't surprise me too much because of that.
It may be difficult maybe in the deep South, that could be an issue, maybe,
Yes,
but that may be the last. They're always last and everything, when it
yeah.
comes to that stuff, but
Like when will Louisiana come around? I don't know, but
yeah, yeah,
Mississippi.
or I don't even know
Yeah.
Texas, is that how is Texas, right? Is it medicinal there at least?
So they have like a CBD only program right now. So
Oh.
there's like a lot of CBD dispensaries, which is like everyone technically really has that. But they have it in law saying they have a CBD program. Yeah.
Wow, jeez, there's so much back into, this business that I think a lot
Hmm.
of people don't know, and I think it'd be good to discuss for uh, users, and for me, I've been a long time user. I didn't know some of the stuff they put in these things, like in edibles, like the butane and stuff. I had no clue
Oh,
that they were
yeah.
so talk a little bit about maybe the growing and why sometimes there's really toxic products in these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like toxic things like mold, bacteria,
Yeah.
yeast that can get in with growing. So I will say that like at the cannabis level, there most states do not allow for pesticides, but there are some states that do allow for certain pesticides to be used. So those will be in the finished cannabis product. So like how you're growing it matters, the soil that you're growing it in, the things that you're applying to it, um, all of that. And then there's also conditions that can create mold, powdery mildew, all these things that make harmful products for people. And it's something that's in Massachusetts right now, which is very controversial. That's been going on. Is say you get that like moldy bud, and they're actually
Mhm.
using radiation to remove it,
Oh my gosh.
which they do to
Gee.
our food. They'll tell you that's what they do to food. So it's like, oh, is that any better? That I'm going to be like putting this in
Wow.
my body, or a cancer patient who's getting cannabis medicine for themselves is putting that under their body. So there's a discussion right now: should that be labeled as irradiated?
Mm,
So there's that. And then, like you said, butane, like I had mentioned, a couple
crazy.
hash labs in Maine had blown up because not that many years ago, but what feels like many years ago, butane hash oil was very popular. So that's when they like use pressurized butane and they pass it through plant material and you get out this hash oil. And then you're supposed to like vacuum oven it, which heats it to a certain degree and sucks out the air. And then it's supposed to remove the butane, but it never will remove all traces of butane.
Mm.
Like even if like a dispensary will say it passes testing, talk to a lab guy, they'll say that it's always going to have traces of like a butane in there because of how it is. There might
Oh,
be people that would want
interesting.
to argue with me on that if they're making
Oh.
hydrocarbon extracts, because they'll say their lab, says it's not detectable, but and it also just creates a different type of extract. Personally, in our products, we use a supercritical CO2 extract, which is just compressed CO2 air in this like 30-foot machine that takes up like 2 stories of a building that's really local, close by. That's certified organic, and they pass CO2 air through it. So it's just like air compressed
Yeah.
extracts. So there's no solvents. And then there's also my favorite for like personal consumption, which is like hash rosin. So that's when they
That's
make
what I
like a
use.
bubble hash.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the best. It's the cleanest. Like the high is like no other.
It's true.
I have smoked like BHO in the past, like solvent extracts, and it gets my jaw tense. It's a
Yeah.
totally like foggy high. And like you had mentioned previously, people have bad first experiences, they have like a disgusting BHO dab that was like low quality back in the day, and they're like, I can't dab, I can't use extracts. When in reality, it might be a more functional, more clean, more like appropriate high for you to take a small dab of hash rosin versus smoking a joint. Like you might
Yeah.
actually, you know what I mean? Like people just are turned off from it. But in my experience, that's like the superior medicine to use, even compared to flour, because flour is just harsh. You're smoking it, bring all this
Yeah.
like burning plant matter into your lungs. It's just a lot healthier, in my opinion, to use hash rosin. So it huge range on quality, how it's grown, and then you also have how it's processed. There's
Yeah.
also extractions using like ethanol. People just use ethanol to extract. Back way when there's people using ISO,
Man,
propyl butane, like
jeez.
alcohol, rubbing alcohol.
Rubbing
So
alcohol.
yeah, and then like there's a stuff called Rick Simpson oil RSO, and I believe he used hexane in it, which you would like never use now,
What?
but that's just what he found to
Yeah.
use. And there's better things now to use, but so yeah, it's interesting.
Man.
People have figured out all different ways to use the plant.
So much, it's crazy. I remember I was it wasn't that long ago, I went and I was like, "Man," I started learning about the butane and stuff. It's like, "I don't want any of this stuff in my gummies or edibles," and so then they turned
Yeah,
me on to this company, Gravity, I think, and then they have, the rosin base, and they were like, "This is probably the best you're gonna do
yeah,
at this point
the
with these
best.
things," and I was like,
It's the
"Alright."
best.
It's a different high, though, because they're like, "This is, like, mostly THC, man. Like, this is gonna be, like, hit hard, like," and I
Yeah,
was like, "No, I want that." I was like, "No, I'm
that's what
not
I'm
looking
signing up
for a
for.
light thing here." I mean, I was like
Yeah, yeah, and you can take less. That's great. You can take a small,
right.
tiny little bit. It's the the
Yeah, I'm
superior
not a big
medicine.
volume person. I'm like, I with anything, like, I want the feeling, and I don't want a lot of volume, though, with it. Like, so I'm
Yeah,
like, I wanna get there, and then I wanna relax, it's like,
good
that's it.
self control and discipline. That's where it's at.
I'm all about that, but I don't want, like, weird stuff in it, like, and
Yeah,
so, it's interesting. The other thing I wanted to ask, like, I think, like, when I go to these places, I don't know how knowledgeable the people are, the bud tenders, or whoever actually are. I don't
yeah.
know, like, how they determine, if somebody knows what they're talking about that much, or they're just like, "Oh, we need to hire people." I mean, what do you think about that?
Yes. So I will say, like in Massachusetts, they've tried to prevent that by doing responsible vendor training. So
Mm,
all the bud tenders are required to do 8 hours of training with their different vendors every year. And then they also have different teachers that come in and teach about the plant and stuff like that. But it's a very good point. We had a woman call us a couple months ago, an older woman, she was like 90, and she wanted CBG
yeah,
to try it out. See, and this someone at the bud
that's
tender was
funny.
like, "We have that, but it also had THC in it."
Yeah.
And they were like, it really won't get you that high. It's only like, 2.5 milligrams. And she was high for like 24 hours. And she's like, I didn't want this. I just wanted CBG. And we were like, she's like, someone told me to call you. And we're like, we have CBG in a tincture and it doesn't have THC. Don't worry, you'll be okay. And she was like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, this poor lady, she's literally
Oh,
like
man.
trying a gummy and then like freaking out and having a panic attack because she's, wasn't expecting to get high and she got high and is just like freaking out. So, yeah, there are those type of experiences. A lot of the amazing dispensaries we work at, we do training with them and teach them about our
Yeah,
products, and everyone else's brand is doing training for them. But I will say on the West Coast, I think there was less of that in like the starting
mm,
markets. So I'm not sure about their current policies, but I don't think there were like responsible vendor training
yeah.
requirements to start. So it created sort of a different vibe. But a lot of
Here's
people
a
just pick their
question.
online order up too. So it's like a lot of
Yeah,
that experience is
yeah.
gone, I'll say too.
I don't like doing that, honestly. I like to go there. It's kind of like an event for me. I like to go
Yeah.
there and chat with people, and I don't
Yeah.
know, it's just something about it that it's just the people thing. I enjoy that aspect, but I wonder, like, if you're working in a place and you're not a someone who uses it, like, and I'm asking you, I'm looking for a body high or this and that, and the person's
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, this is supposed to be good." Like, I don't know. I kind of want them to like be experienced with it. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Or if you ask them, like, is this one good? Like, they'll always say yes
what are you
because they
talking
don't
about?
want to talk crap
Yeah,
about like any of the products they carry. But like, is this like actually good? The key is to like give them options and see which one they would like recommend out of different options, because they'll always
yeah.
say like everything's fire because it's their
That's
job.
true. People do say that. I'm not looking for that. I want, like, a more
Honesty.
personalized experience. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like an
Like,
authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna be able to, like, "Listen, this is what I'm looking for," and, like, "Do you have experience with this, or can someone here tell me," like and I know everybody's different, is I mean, I have people I know who, like, literally, they have to have, like, 100 plus milligrams to feel anything.
I know
That's
plenty.
crazy to me. That's
Yeah.
insane. Like, 10 is
Yeah.
my max. I'm like, "Whoa, I'm good." I'm like
Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, people that build up that tolerance,
Yeah.
and there's just people that are just like consuming mass amounts of cannabis. And I will say, I had a friend who unfortunately passed away, but he had was like that. He would just eat so much cannabis, and then he developed cannabis hypermesis syndrome, which I'm not sure if you've heard of that,
No,
but it
no.
can be from like high consumption amounts of cannabis over a long period of time. They're still not sure what causes it. They think
Mhm.
some people are able to have that happen to them and others aren't. But it pretty much makes it so you become like violently allergic to weed. And
Wow.
the only thing that like relieves people is like taking a hot shower. You get super nauseous, you're puking, and then people think they eat something else, so they're using more cannabis, and it creates this like
Mm.
whole awful cycle of like cyclical vomiting, and it's from their TRPV1 receptor in their endocannabinoid system getting stuck.
Wow.
And like I bet my friend would just like literally eat like 1,000 milligrams.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then unfortunately he ended up like taking his own life, not to be dark about it, but I think a
Yeah,
huge part of it was because cannabis was just removed from his life and we don't
right.
have enough knowledge about it, and he was hearing that he'll never be able to use it again because that's kind of the
Wow.
thought process on the condition.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just like a really really sad thing that like a lot of people are dealing with. And a lot of it, there's discussion, is that from certain things that were being used to grow it? Was it from neem oil? Is it from pesticide use? And like the general consensus and like I think the medical community would be that it's just an overload of
Yeah.
cannabinoids on your system, and some people's system can't handle it. But that's from like
Wow.
I said, very high amounts of usage.
That's an insane level of I mean, I can't even I would be baked for 2 weeks straight. I wouldn't even be a functioning member of society for, like,
I
a half
couldn't
a
open
month.
my eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah, same.
exactly. I would, like
I'd be like,
I
where am
just Yeah, I don't even understand that. I
I?
mean,
Yeah,
I read this article, I think it was a Times Magazine article one time about this journalist who did 900 milligrams, and, like, for 2 weeks, he was just like a zombie, and,
yeah.
I was like, "I just don't even wanna go there." It's not even, like, worth it.
It's
Like,
not
it's
fun.
just
No,
like
it's not fun. It's not fun. Like 5, 10 milligrams. Maybe if you're crazy, like 20, if you're like really trying to get wild with it. But like that's
Yeah.
honestly all you really need. And using that much just builds up a tolerance, and then you're spending a ton of money. It's like
Yeah,
really finding that lowest amount that works for you and like hanging out there. That's
it's
like
just
a
the
lot of the
dose,
key.
right? It's, like, understanding, like, the proper dosing for
Mm-hmm.
that, and I think that's with, like, a lot of things. I had a solo cast about called "What's the Right Dose?" and it was just basically for anything in your life, whether it's exercise, nutrition, whether it's cannabis, psychedelics, like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
right dose, and you have to, like, kinda do some exploration. I mean, I'll be totally honest. I've done, 35, 40 milligrams in one pop, and it was just, like, devastating to me. It was like,
This is
like,
not
it
for
just
me.
I just was doing snow angels in my friend's living room, and I couldn't move. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, my wife had to help me into the car and stuff, and it was, like, pathetic.
Oh, it's not
Honestly, it
fun.
was pathetic. It was like
You're like, this is not what I wanted. I didn't choose this.
no. No, and I have people in my life who, like, they won't go over a certain amount because they'll be like, "I can't talk anymore." Like, once I
Yeah.
can't talk, I'm just, like, sitting there, like, and,
I'll
like
yeah, I'll never forget my college roommate. She was from California and she wanted to love weed so bad,
yeah,
but she's just like, I don't smoke. I'm useless. And she came into the room one
yeah,
night and she's next to her bed and she's like, I can't do anything.
yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, you're
This
just
is why I
useless.
don't smoke. And she wanted to be a stoner so bad. She had the whole vibe, but she's like, it's just not for me. Her name was Jazzy. I love her so much. She's from LA. And she was just
Yeah,
like, damn,
it's
like why do I do
disappointing.
this? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just like our bodies are all so unique. The
yeah.
endocannabinoid system is so unique to everyone, and it's such a journey of self exploration, like you said.
It's definitely a journey of self-exploration. Like, I'm not a smoker. Like, I will if I visit my friends who are smokers, I will partake in it, but, like, I'm an edible person through and through. It just agrees with me. I feel like this is gonna sounds weird. I tell people this, I feel like a peak version of myself on edibles. Like,
Hmm.
I'm funnier, I'm more relaxed, I don't take things too actually, I've done edibles working out. I know that sounds really crazy, but
Oh
at a
no,
very low
I,
level dose, it's amazing. It's
you
actually
can really tune
amazing.
in.
You can tune in. Exactly. I
Mhm.
say all the bullshit goes away and you can just focus. I'm telling you, it's amazing. I'm not saying I'm recommending it to people.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for me personally, it's actually amazing. And there
Yeah.
in Colorado was pioneering the research in this and exercise and cannabis. I think they're just blowing the lid off of it. It's amazing.
Oh, that's so great. I coach basketball and softball, and like for me to like play those sports, to go out, I would never like hit a
Sure.
softball high or anything or go to like
No,
coach. I
no.
would never coach high, but like for me to play, like shooting hoops after using some cannabis
Oh,
and putting on some hip hop in my ears is like
so good.
so therapeutic for me. I'm
Yes.
just like so nasty at shooting when I'm in that zone. I'm like, I can't miss right now because I'm so relaxed and just doing it.
Yeah,
Like, I love that feeling. Like, cannabis and working out absolutely can go hand in hand. And even going to the gym to lift or
for
just do
sure.
things like not so much like a lot of cardio, I would
Yeah.
say, but if I'm doing like the stairs or if I'm going in for a lift, like getting a little bit of
Mhm.
high before really helps me just like tune everyone out, get out of my own head and just like really focus on what I'm doing. Because we all know if you go to the gym, you can get really in your own head and you're like counting the numbers and you're just like, oh man, I wish I could just like really just be like here
Yeah.
in the moment. So it helps me a lot.
I feel the same way. I've told this so many times, people, and they're like, "How do you work out like that?" I'm just telling you, it's like if you make I'm telling like cooking food. If you cook when
Oh
you're
yeah.
high, you make some amazing food because you don't care about anything else. You're just
Mm-hmm.
like focused on, I'm gonna tear this apart. When
Like, how can I
I,
be creative with this right now?
yeah,
Like,
what
what
can
can
I
I do
do with
different?
this? Yeah, I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
some
Or
people
like,
use music for it, other people do other. I'm just telling you, it's you focus
yeah,
more. It sounds counterintuitive though.
yeah. And I'll say an obvious one is like yoga or stretching
Yeah,
using cannabis. You can get really into like a deep state. I swear I can like relax my body more and get further into a stretch.
yeah.
So it's really
Right?
helpful.
No one would believe you. That doesn't again, if you don't do it, you think, "No, that's not true."
Yeah.
It's a full circle in the conversation. There's no way you probably can't move. Yeah, I couldn't move if I did, like, way too many. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I smoked
Find your
2 if I
dose.
took, like, 10 hits in a row,
Yeah.
like or if I did the water bong doesn't agree with me. I don't do it at all.
Oh man, I know
It
people
just
that do that
does
every day for their daily driver,
God,
and I'm
that's
like, "What are you
incredible.
doing?" Yeah,
It's
she's the
so
one's in her
harsh.
30s, and she's like, "My daily driver." She puts it on her like her Facebook story. I'm like, "What?
Wow,
What?
it's
How are
so
you doing that?"
harsh. It just
It's so
crushes
hard.
me, like, and then
Not that.
there's, like you ever do the volcano? You ever do that?
Yeah, I have
Oh,
one.
man, I love of course you do. I was like,
Yeah, I bought one like 10 years ago, and it's still holding out.
oh,
It's
it's
great.
great technology, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
it just here's my thing, it just looks silly, that stupid balloon that blows up. It's like, you look like a massive degenerate when that balloon blows up and you're just taking the hit from the balloon. It's
I brought
crazy.
it to college parties because I've had it for 10 years, and I was like, "Let's hit the bag." And I'm like, "I guess this is cool."
It
They're like,
just looks
"Reg, help
silly.
here."
It
We got
looks
a house party.
silly. Yeah, it's just filling up and makes that sound, and then, they have the whip with it too, and the
Yeah.
whip looks even worse because it
Yeah.
just like it's just like
Yeah, I know, and then you're like, "Did I hit it?" It's, like, not as satisfying to, like, smoke
no,
vapor,
no,
unfortunately,
but
but
I'll
it's
tell you the
healthy.
volcano, it's a dense hit, like, it's just, like,
Yeah.
so dense, and it
Mhm.
almost feels like an edible a little bit to me. It's like, man, it
It's a
just
different high. It is
different
a
high.
different high than smoking a joint. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this is gonna sound crazy. This is gonna sound really crazy, but I remember back in the day when I used to drink more than and now I don't drink that much, but when I did drink more, I would actually smoke a joint and it would sober me up. It was weird. Like, I
Yeah.
would smoke and I'll be completely sober, and my buddy's like, "How is this possible?" I'm like, "I have no clue." I
Yeah,
was
it's
like
your body. Like, some people getting crossfaded, and they're like, "Oh, I can't see, I'm dizzy."
yeah,
Like, I've had friends who we drank, and then I'd be like, "Hey, take your first dab." Bad idea. This is
yeah,
college
yeah,
before I was in this industry,
yeah,
and they're puking for, like, an hour.
crazy.
Yeah, that's really funny. It's sober you up. I feel like the same way. Like, if I use cannabis, if I was drinking, it would allow me to, like, have better conversations and, like,
Yeah,
but I don't drink really anymore, like, once a year. But it
yeah.
now I just get tired. If I
You
drink, I'm
just
like, "I'm exhausted. I'm old. I'm a mom."
Oh, wow. What's funny?
Yeah.
Drinking is interesting. Like, I, enjoy a nice cocktail probably 3 times a week, and then it's
Mhm.
definitely, like, I'm a big crossfader, very big
Mhm.
into it. I do my edible. This will happen in, like, 4 hours from now. I do my edible, and I have a very strong cocktail or beer, and that's
Yeah.
it. And
Yep.
then I just let it roll the rest of the night, and then the eating becomes the main
It's
deal. I
just so
mean,
nice to feel that head change. Like, that's why I'll drink,
yeah.
like, 1 drink if I go out because, like you said, it's just nice to get that feeling and then just, like, stay there.
It's a lubrication, you know, it's
Yeah.
just like, I like the lubrication. I don't like the effects beyond that. That
Mhm.
to me feels pointless.
Like feeling
You
it
know,
next day, right? Do you hate that? Like
no,
that's like I
no.
hate
I
it. I
don't do I
hate
haven't had that in many, many years, and that's why,
it's the
like, it's funny,
worst.
a group of friends and I, we are primarily cannabis users, and drinking is literally like a one-off,
Mhm.
max 2 when we have a big night, and, I said because I just feel great in the morning. Whenever I have weed, I feel amazing in the morning. Like, I feel like I can go do anything, I could do as social as I want, go work out, but, you know, if you're just drinking, you can't do anything the next
I
day.
know.
You're just it
Mhm.
destroys your day, and that doesn't make sense to me. It makes no sense to me.
I know you're literally giving away a whole day just to have some fun at the night. Like I
Right,
couldn't
yeah,
agree more because I we all do it in college, and or not
yeah,
everyone, but you experiment college, your body's like can bounce back, and then
yeah,
each year goes by, and you're like, I'm feeling this more, I'm feeling
yeah.
this more. I don't want to do this anymore.
No, it's just better to mainly make, like, weed, your main thing, and
Hmm.
then, everything else is complimentary. I just was like, "Man, I just wanna feel better," and I always feel like $1,000,000 in the morning after I do my edible. I'm always like, "Man, I could conquer anything."
Yeah, and you are without even realizing it, you're like supporting your body with inflammation support, like
Right.
anti-inflammatory support. Any like pain, it can really help with just like targeting. So in addition to like having a great night, you're like, I'm also supporting my body. It's just
You're
such a
supporting your
win-win.
body, yes, and I'm like a very funny person when I'm I get, like, really funny. I'm not a funny person normally,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
become hilarious generally after that, and it's
I
very
I
amazing.
learned that I learned that about myself because I was pregnant for 9 months and I had like no sense of humor back. I was just like pregnant, angry, and not using cannabis. And I was like, and my partner was like, "You're just like you seem kind of angry." And I was like, "Well,
Yeah,
I'm not using cannabis, so like I can't. I'm just taking things way too seriously, like I did
yeah,
for the first 17 years of my life."
that's exactly right.
When I was such an uptight kid trying to like be a perfectionist. So,
Same here.
um,
We're
yeah,
similar. We're
yeah,
literally the same type of people, like, my usage is to, like, take it down a notch from being so
yeah,
serious. I'm like, I just need to, like, come down to, like, chill level. Like, I'm always,
yeah.
like, ready to do stuff. I'm like,
Yeah,
"Geez,
I had
man."
someone describe me as frenetic during like a recent phone call with them, and I was like, I guess that's a good way to put my sometimes energy because I
Yeah,
am. I'm just so high energy, and I always
yeah,
want to go, go, go. I want to do more things, and like cannabis helps me like center myself and be
yeah.
more realistic with my expectations. Sometimes too, I'm like, well, Laura, like you gotta like be able to sleep and like work
Yeah,
out too, things like that. Have a
yeah,
balance.
most definitely. I mean, I knew this was gonna be a great episode.
Oh yeah, this
Totally
is
knew.
awesome.
You know what the hard thing though is, like, sharing these episodes, you gotta, like, be, like, see you gotta, like, say, "Oh, we're talking about plant medicine and stuff." You can't say weed, cannabis, because then, like,
Hmm.
if I share it on a channel, it's like, well, I don't know, like, they're gonna, like, literally flag the episode. I'm like, "What's the big
It's so
deal?" I mean,
ridiculous.
like, it's ridiculous. Like, ugh,
Hmm.
it's so
I know.
stupid, you
It
know?
is.
So, I gotta try I need, like, a weed channel I could share stuff on, like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's such a struggle. Like I said, just trying to operate in this space, and then collaborate with people that aren't in this industry, and they're like, "Why did I put up just your solve and it wasn't? It got like flagged, or I feel like I'm shadow banned now, or like all these
Yeah,
things." And it's just like, why are they punishing people that want to work with the plant so bad from like
yeah,
the media perspective? I don't
yeah,
know, but
mm,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's weird. Well,
frustrating.
listen, thank you so much, Laura, for giving me your time, and, tell people how they can connect with you, find what you're doing, the whole deal.
Sure. So, thehealingroseco.com is where you can find our products. I'm also on LinkedIn, Laura Beohner. The Healing Rose is on Instagram, Facebook. For our tag, you'll have to type in the Healing Rose underscore because we are shadow banned on
Mhm.
Instagram. But we're very active on there. I really recommend people following me on LinkedIn though, because I do share a lot of my podcasts that I'm on and just a lot of content to try to help other small business entrepreneurs out, and not just cannabis, but everyone.
Awesome. This was excellent. I feel like it was full of, like, just lots of information and, about states and different things. It's kind of like everything about weed episode, I feel
Yeah,
like. It's just perfect. You're
I love
amazing.
this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your
Thank you.
time, Laura.
I appreciate you so much. It really flew by, huh? Wow.
It did. I know,
That's
crazy, just
awesome.
like that. Thanks again.
Thank you.